Welcome to Elephant in the Room, a podcast featuring real conversations with real therapists on the elephant in every room, trauma. With this show, we are aiming to share insights from professional practitioners on trauma, its impacts, as well as various modalities and resources on healing for survivors. This podcast is produced by the Breaking Free Foundation, a Canadian registered charity that supports trauma survivors in reclaiming their lives and finding healing. All of the therapists interviewed on this podcast are members of the Breaking Free Foundation Trauma Practitioner Network. My name is Amber Craig. I am a trauma survivor, one of the co-founders of the Breaking Free Foundation, and the proud host of this podcast. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Michelle Johnston. Michelle is a registered psychologist at Take Care Therapy in Calgary. She specializes in financial therapy and mental well-being in her practice. Please welcome to the podcast, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, easy question to start off with. I gave a very brief introduction because I'd love to give you the opportunity to speak more about what you do and what areas you specialize in.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to share a little bit more about myself. So I started my journey in the field of psychology by completing a Bachelor of Arts degree at the University of Victoria. Following that, I've worked in various nonprofit settings in Calgary. And then in 2019, I decided to pursue my Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology through Yorkville University, where I graduated in 2022. And since then, I've been working in private practice settings, helping clients with a wide range of mental health needs. Then recently this summer, I chose to expand into my own solo practice, Take Care Therapy, where I focus on financial therapy among other specialties. And in my practice, I like to draw on several therapeutic modalities tailored to my clients' needs. So those include ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, self-compassion, and I'm also trained in EMDR. Through using each of these approaches, I help support my clients in exploring, understanding, and transforming their relationship with money and the traumas they may associate with financial challenges. Financial trauma in particular is a focus of mine because I see how deeply it affects people's lives and shapes their beliefs, their emotions, and the choices that they make around money in ways that impact well-being, relationships, and overall quality of life.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have this conversation because I want to focus it on financial trauma because that's your area of expertise. It's not a topic we've actually covered, but I think it's really timely right now given the economic climate that we're in. So just to kind of kick off this conversation, can you sort of define for the listeners what financial trauma is?
Yeah, so financial trauma is a deeply rooted emotional response to past or ongoing financial hardships. It's something that goes beyond simply being stressed or anxious about money or finance, and instead it's a psychological and sometimes physical reaction that can result from various experiences that people have had in their life, like chronic financial instability, job loss, debt, or financial abuse. And these experiences can leave people feeling disempowered or ashamed and even insecure about their future, especially if they are currently experiencing any financial instability. And even for those who may make a good salary or feel financially stable, financial trauma can still show up. It really involves this sense of vulnerability or fear around money that becomes ingrained in an individual and can affect their sense of self-worth, their relationships, how they spend money or save money, and their overall approach to life.
So you did mention a couple things just there on like how that can show up. Is there anything else in terms of how this type of trauma can manifest for people, either emotionally or physically?
Yeah, so financial trauma can manifest in many different complex ways. affecting both emotional and physical health. Emotionally, individuals may experience chronic feelings of anxiety or fear or dread when dealing with money. They may also feel shame or guilt around past or current financial choices or beliefs about their financial situation, defining their self-worth. And this emotional weight can lead to certain types of behaviors like avoidance, which can show up in things like not opening bills or bank statements, avoiding paying down credit cards or other forms of debt, because these types of financial tasks can trigger such intense feelings. Or others, this trauma can lead to obsessions or the need to have control over finances, where they may feel compelled to budget or save obsessively as ways to feel safe. This can also look like obsessively checking bank accounts or obsessively checking investments. And then physically, this type of trauma can activate the body's fight, flight, or freeze response, and then lead to symptoms like headaches, fatigue, muscle tension, and even digestive issues when having to think about or deal with anything involving money. And then when the brain perceives these money-related situations as threats, it keeps our nervous system stuck in that heightened state of alertness. And then some people turned to certain behaviors like spending money as a way to temporarily soothe the stress, the fear, or the anxiety that is showing up. Whereas others may avoid these financial topics as a way to escape the feelings that they bring. So recognizing these patterns and how they connect to one's past financial experiences is often the first step in recognizing and understanding this type of trauma.
So a lot of what you described was sort of when you're in the height of this activation, what can happen to you emotionally and physically. Is there any kind of impact that could happen over time as a result of this type of trauma?
Definitely. So this type of trauma is something that can have a lasting and far-reaching impact on a person's life, especially when it is something that's left unaddressed. Over time, it can really shape how people view themselves or view themselves in relationships with others, or the choices and actions they make in their future. Individuals with financial trauma may become overly cautious or struggle to enjoy financial resources or take reasonable risks like investing or spending on things that bring joy. And this trauma can also lead to avoidance behaviors that compound stress, so ignoring bills or failing to plan for the future, which may cause people to unintentionally worsen their financial situation. It can also influence our relationships in the sense that, particularly in romantic or family relationships, it can be hard to have discussions about money, and money can be viewed as a significant source of conflict. So further perpetuating the avoidance types of behaviors, not talking about money or not making joint financial decisions in relationships. And then it can also even become intergenerational, being passed down through patterns of scarcity or fear or mistrust around money to children or other individuals through some of the things that we say in our beliefs or stories that we have about money. And then this is where therapy can help to really interrupt some of these cycles and patterns to empower individuals to understand more about and process or change their relationship with money.
So something you said a little bit ago that I want to circle back to because I think it's important is just um, for anyone that's listening to this right now, what would sort of be like initial warning signs or ways for them to recognize that what they're going through could actually be considered financial trauma?
I would say it's recognizing how it's showing up for you, this sort of thoughts and feelings that you're noticing in your mind or in your body when it comes to dealing with money, when it comes to paying bills, when it comes to thinking about your future, planning ahead, or any types of spending decisions, if you're noticing any type of intense sort of visceral reaction or discomfort or avoidance behaviors around money, those can often be some subtle or sometimes big signs of financial trauma. Also looking back into your own history and thinking about what kind of messages you learned about money, or what kind of stories or beliefs about money that were gained from childhood can also help to inform this type of trauma.
And just shifting gears a little bit to the hope side of things, which is always where we want to land, what are some tools that people can utilize to start healing from this type of financial trauma?
So a few different tools that I find that can be helpful to support healing from trauma. Number one, I like to use different types of journaling practices with clients that I work with. So journaling about fears around finances and experiences can help people to make sense of some of the emotions and just start to become aware of them. As well as to begin processing some of the past challenges. In a course that I took over the spring called The Trauma of Money, one of the exercises that we did was thinking about money as if it was a person and writing a letter to it and just noticing the thoughts or feelings that came up to help explore how money has influenced us and our relationship with it. I also like to engage clients in different mindfulness practices like deep breathing or grounding exercises to help reduce the stress that shows up and allow people to approach financial decisions with greater clarity and a sense of calmness. And then also looking at establishing small, manageable financial goals can be empowering to help individuals gain a sense of control over their finances and build more confidence in their abilities. In my practice, I also like to further help clients explore those unhelpful beliefs about money using strategies and techniques from ACT or CBT, and then create healthier thought patterns around money. And self-compassion can also be a helpful tool to allow individuals to treat themselves with kindness rather than judgment when it comes to dealing with any kind of financial situations or setbacks.
So what's great about that list is it's largely pretty accessible, I think, to anybody, whether they're in therapy or not. However, just grasping from your professional experience, you did touch on a few things, but what would you say is a role that therapy could play in overcoming financial trauma, and what specific therapeutic approaches would you say are helpful?
I think that therapy is really a place that people can feel a little bit more comfortable to unpack their experiences with finances and money and explore that financial trauma further to its root and start to heal. I think there's a lot of things around financial trauma that most people don't feel comfortable sharing with other finance professionals like bankers or financial advisors or accountants. And so in working with a therapist, you can talk to somebody and explore these things with a bit more safety and support, and then really begin to learn those healthier beliefs around money, how to shift behaviors, and then develop coping strategies to manage the financial stress. I also like the more structured environment that therapy creates in also helping clients to set boundaries and then reduce anxiety around money. The other advantage I see with working with a therapist is for those that are able to use health benefits. It's a great way to make that type of support a little bit more accessible. In my practice as well, I like to offer a sliding scale for those who need the extra support, but maybe are not necessarily able to cover the cost of therapy themselves. And then there's also other tools such as EMDR that can be helpful to process specific traumatic memories to help clients further explore and reshape their relationship with money, as well as, ACT and CBT type of strategies, which can be helpful as well.
That's excellent. What are some just general resources that you would recommend on this topic if anyone is interested in kind of diving in further?
So when I started doing more research into this area and wanting to pursue courses and looking for other information, one of the courses that I took was called The Trauma of Money. And that one was something that I found really helpful. It was a series, I think it was about 16 weeks long, looking at all different aspects of money trauma and how that shows up. And it was really about decreasing shame with money and increasing discernment. There's also a lot of really great books around financial anxiety. One being The Financial Anxiety Solution. I believe that's by Lindsay Brian Podbin. And then other books by Brad Klontz. One is called Mind Over Money, that provides more insights into financial psychology and tools for managing money-related stress. I'm also part of the Financial Therapy Association, which is an organization that helps to connect individuals with other professionals, whether they be in the mental health field or other financial fields, who are trained or focus on financial therapy.
That's perfect. And we'll definitely have those resources in the show notes as well. Um, Again, we haven't covered this type of trauma before on this podcast, but I think it's probably something that a lot of people can recognize in themselves or somebody else. So I think this is really timely. What would you say is a myth about financial trauma that you'd like to dispel?
Something that when I bring up this topic or share about it with others, a common myth that comes up is that financial trauma only impacts those who faced extreme hardship or poverty, when in reality, this type of trauma can impact anyone, much like other forms of trauma. So people from various income levels who have, different salary levels, different jobs, can experience financial trauma because it's rooted in our personal experiences, perceptions, and beliefs rather than financial status alone. So, for example, someone who may have experienced instability growing up or saw parents go through sudden job loss, they may carry financial trauma even when they might be in a stable position themselves. They may have beliefs around scarcity or beliefs around lack that could be holding them back, making them feel like no matter how much money they earn, that it's never enough. And other myths around financial trauma are that it's something that will resolve on its own if we just earn more money or save more money. When the truth is that addressing this type of trauma really requires work around exploring those underlying beliefs and emotions, because these things can often remain and subconsciously affect us even when our financial circumstances improve. And so we sometimes end up repeating these patterns over and over and over again if we don't address the root. So recognizing this type of trauma as valid and seeking support is a very important step towards that type of healing and recovery.
I think that's very well said. This has been a really helpful conversation. I think a lot of people are going to find value in this topic. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we close?
The last thing that I would like to share is just to encourage anyone who may be dealing with financial trauma to know that there are supports out there. and they don't have to navigate this journey alone. It's just a matter of finding the right type of support, finding someone that you can trust. Financial trauma is something that is real. It's something that can impact so many of us. But through working through this, individuals can really transform their relationship with money and finally move towards greater financial well-being through taking small steps like practicing self-compassion. We can also help to heal, and also just knowing that this process is gradual and involves building new patterns and new beliefs over time. Working on financial trauma is definitely not a sort of quick fix, but seeking support is an act of courage and an act of self-care. And for myself personally, I'm so grateful to be on this journey with the clients that I get to work with.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your insights. Again, I think this is a really important topic to be talked about. So I very much appreciate you taking the time. If anyone is interested in more information about Michelle and her practice, please see our show notes. The Breaking Free Foundation offers therapy grants for trauma survivors in Alberta, and we also host 2 free support meetings a month. One is in person in Calgary, and one is online. For more information on trauma therapy and our organization, please visit us online at breakingfreefoundation.ca. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share. That's all for now. Stay well.